This is the No BS Coaching Advice Podcast, episode 132. I'm your host, Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome. I like to spend some time weekly talking with you about some aspect of life, the universe, everything. And most shows come up as a result of conversations or situations I've been in. And before I forget, for those of you who are going to celebrate Happy 4th of July this week, U.S. holiday, celebrating U.S. independence, and those who sacrificed their lives so many years ago in service to what would become our country. Amazing. Amazing that they are our legacy. Or actually, are we their legacy? Legacy is one of those funny words. And as I think about it, we're their legacy. We are the people who followed in their footsteps and pass on what we learned from them, what we learned from our parents, to ensuing generations, to our children. And if you kind of imagined it, it might be if you looked over your left shoulder, you'd see all the fathers of your lineage that preceded you. And if you looked over your right shoulder, you'd see all the mothers of your lineage that had preceded you. And as you looked ahead, you might see your children or the children that you might have ahead of you, or no one there, depending upon your circumstances. We'll be someone's history, and the ones that others will read about in books at different times. Or we'll be the ones that they'll tell stories about. But no matter, we are history and we are someone else's future, all wrapped up in one. It seems like for many of us, we get stuck in a membrane. It's kind of like a giant amoeba where we're stuck in the membrane, unable to move through things. And in getting stuck, we start telling ourselves stories about why it is we're stuck. And the stories become all-powerful, all-knowing, all-encompassing. I was watching 60 Minutes last night, and they did, excuse me if I start crying, but, for me it was a very moving segment about one of the Nuremberg prosecutors, the last surviving prosecutor from the World War II or post-World War II Nuremberg trials. And in interviewing Ben Ferencz, who is that man? 99 years old, I believe, still so quick and so spry and so agile. It's wonderful to see. He told a story about how he was chosen as a 27-year-old man, and he had no real prosecutorial experience. He was a soldier, and he studied law eventually, but he hadn't been in a courtroom, and really no one had ever been involved with a trial like this before. Crimes against humanity, post-World War II, millions murdered. And he's going to walk into the courtroom because no one else could they find funding to do it. And thus this 27-year-old man walks in, very short. It seemed like the podium he spoke from was almost as big as he. And he had found, or documents were delivered to him that proved the case. No one had to speak because the admissions of murder were in the documents. Each man from the Eisenstoff-Gruppe, I'm going to mispronounce it, so I'm not going to bother. This group of mobile murderers that followed Nazi armies into different conquered nations had written reports back to headquarters for how many they had killed. So they didn't have to speak, and their denials or claims of not guilty were false, proven by their own handwriting. So I keep thinking of what it takes to move through resistance, what you need to do to challenge your own self-imposed limitations at times where you don't think you can do it. I just keep thinking, for him, this was a moment that would change life for him and everyone he knew, and for the world as well. For you, the circumstances may be much smaller, but just as powerful. Keep going forward. Don't stop and tell yourself stories about why you can't do things. Just keep moving forward. People tend to overexpress themselves or underexpress themselves. And then they argue over interpretations of reality rather than reality. Notice what it is that gets expressed and what the response or reaction is. Notice response or reaction. And I say it that way because sometimes what is the conversation all about anyway? It's about an emotional trigger that gets activated by something that's been said or done, rather than the events that have occurred. You see, in our conversations, we carry our history with us in shopping bags. And when something gets said in a particular way, or words get constructed in a particular manner, it triggers us. It activates some sense memory from our past. It's why we tense up in situations. We're frightened. And the result winds up being we carry these bags around with us and argue over reactions to things rather than the facts of the matter. Consider, instead of responding or reacting, to say something more along the lines of, I noticed when you walked in, I felt a little angry. Would you be open to letting me walk through this thought? I don't think it has anything really to do with you. Or, something, I was reminded of something when you walked in. Would you be open to having this conversation with me for a few minutes? You could do this with a wife, husband, partner. I don't know about the office. You can make a decision about that for yourself. I'm not going to give you advice. It depends on your relationship with someone. But I'd simply say that practice in your relationships, practice outside of work first before you bring it into the workplace. And just notice how your body responds or reacts to different circumstances instead of letting it react, instead of letting the untrained mind go wild and as a result cause friction, problems, and hostility that may be completely unnecessary. The song lyrics are beautiful. Did you ever know that you're my hero and everything I would like to be? I can fly higher than an eagle, for you are the wind beneath my wings. A wonderful Bette Midler lyric that she's performed. Folks, how can you become your own hero instead of depending upon someone else? What are you not seeing about yourself that others see so easily? Folks, you are magnificent more than you're willing to admit or even recognize. Look for opportunities to praise yourself, because I sure as heck know you know how to criticize yourself. So that's today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you listen to the show. Just subscribe so you get downloads whenever I release a new episode. Each show is going to be bite-sized morsels of advice just like today's. I hope you enjoyed it, and I do hope you subscribe. And if you do choose to subscribe, I hope you decide to support the show. There's a link that will take you to anchor.fm where you can make a pledge in support of the show. I'd greatly appreciate it. If you're interested in my coaching you, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. Mention that you listen to the show. I just happen to like knowing I'm helping some folks. And once we're connected, message me about your interest in coaching, we'll set up a free call. We'll get acquainted, see if it makes sense. I'll be back soon with more. And in the meantime, I hope you have a great day. Take care. Time for